All right, here we go. Happy Wednesday night. This is Team Play Hard's weekly call, and my name is Ellen. And I recently returned from Marketing Impact Academy, Chalene Johnson's annual business conference for entrepreneurs. And some of the notes I just jotted down when she would take the stage, I sort of piled up into one list. So there's not really like what I would call a through line or categories. But I still thought these were like her golden nuggets. So the through line is that these are her golden nuggets. And the first one was about your brain relaxing when you write things down. So do you guys, and this is going to be a discussion, I'm sure you guys keep a calendar and a planner. How do you do your daily list really quickly? And like, do you look at them the night before? Do you do spiral notebook? How does your brain relax, if you know what I mean? Like, there becomes a point where you're like, I've got to do this tomorrow. I've got to do this tomorrow. I need to do this by the end of the week. How do you gather those in your planner? And then do you look at it the night before or the morning of? Dana does.
Yeah, just any list, any paper that I have around, I'll start a list on. Doesn't have to be pretty. I don't have a designated notebook for it.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't necessarily look at it at night before I go to bed. Just as long as I know I can't forget about it because it's written down, that's where my stress comes from. If I am like, God, I can't forget about this. So that's why I write it down. So as long as it's on paper, I'm fine.
I do have to look at it the night before.
Yeah.
Jennifer, do you? Or you look at it in the morning?
I'm kind of like Jake. If I know it's written down, I'm usually good. And then in the morning, I start to go through what I need to do.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Dana, remember, you do remember? Oh, so that you remember. Mark, are you there? Mark, are you there?
Yep, here cooking and messing with things, but I'm totally listening. I have an Outlook calendar where I set reminders, so it's popping up in my face for the day before. So I don't have to remember anything. If I have to rely on my memory, I'm doomed.
Oh, so you're a digital calendar kind of a guy.
Yeah, and that way, the really cool thing about an Outlook reminder, it'll pop up. You can snooze it or delay it for an hour if you need to readjust your schedule, but it won't go away completely.
Yeah, there are some things that I use a Google Calendar, which is probably like Outlook. There are some things I put on there because I want them to like email alert me or pop up alerts. And so that I have to dismiss them. So there's certain things that I have on there, like our team's recognition. I have as a recurring event every Thursday, and stuff like that. So your brain relaxes, and Dana, did you have something to say? Did you want me to read the chat?
No, what I was saying before is when Jake said things I can't forget, and I tell myself I can't forget, it's a psychological truth that if you say to yourself or someone else, don't forget, you're setting their unconscious mind up to forget.
What? Really?
Yeah. So you say, please remember.
Oh, I believe that. That's like if you tell, that's like, that makes sense to me because as an instructor, we are told that if we tell people don't let your knees go in front of your toes when you squat, that they process let your knees go in front of your toes when you squat. So we're supposed to frame it up in the positive and say, draw your hips back when you squat.
It's sort of like when they say affirmations. Mm-hmm. When Jake did the affirmation and you keep it down to true words, it's very much the same thing because the way your brain processes, it hears don't. It processes in the negative or the positive.
That's interesting. Your brain relaxes also when there isn't clutter. And by far, this is definitely my biggest issue of this list is I totally function in clutter. Like my computer's cluttered, my kitchen's cluttered, my car is cluttered, my office is cluttered. It's like organized clutter. And Anyway, are you guys clean? Are you neat? Are you organized digitally? Are you organized in your car? Your brain isn't free to be creative and rested and focused when there's clutter around. Who's guilty? Just Dana, you're cluttery? Kind of. Jake, you don't seem cluttery. We see your room all the time. You're not cluttery. Okay, next point. Pay attention to your body in regards to how food affects you. And this might seem like a no-brainer for us as coaches, but I actually don't think it is. When's the last time you guys ate something and you correlated specifically how you felt when you have that specific food? Like, are you paying attention to when you feel not your best and what you ate and how hydrated you are? Come on.
I kind of do that. I do that consistently. I did have a comment with the last thing, but I realized when I hit unmute, it didn't unmute. But anyway, I constantly monitor, especially since we've started this journey. My system has always been kind of sensitive to different things at different times. So sometimes like gluten, or sometimes I feel poorly when I eat red meat. But especially with this program, because of the increase in veggies and trying to make sure I get lean meats, like I've been dealing with stomach aches off and on for a while, like just starting this program. So I'm always trying to find the things that make me like more comfortable. And I get headaches when I get dehydrated, so I'm also always monitoring that.
Jake, you're muted. You're yawning. I thought you were going to say something profound. Jake, do you pay attention to what you eat and how it affects you?
Yeah, I do. The other night I had like half a wheel of brie, and it made me really not feel very good. And I can't tell if it's the brie or the fact that I ate half a wheel of it. So I'm going to try it again, see what happens.
Her line of thinking is that most people don't really associate or stop to pay attention. Like they might not feel well. Their stomach might hurt. Like Jennifer said, they might have a headache, but they're not really like self-assessing with what they ate. And, like things that if they're bloated, like thinking back, like what did I eat to make me feel that way? But what she really wanted to drive home to us that I thought was a good takeaway and something I haven't thought that much about. I think all the time about how food and nutrition affects my weight management, how it affects the way I feel, how it affects the way I look, all of that stuff. But and how it affects my business in terms of how I look. But she really wanted to drive the point home that our food and our nutrition affect our business, and not in terms of the way I was looking at it exclusively, which is like we need to look the part, not that, but in terms of our energy level, our clarity, and having maximal motivation. So, for when you think about this job and how it can be hamster wheel-ish at times, because we get on team calls, we listen to the National Wake Up Call, we do our inviting, we add to our social media networks, we invite to a challenge group for the next month, then we go check on the challenge group, and then we listen to the National Wake Up Call, we get on the team call, and we run a challenge group, and we drink our shake every day, and we do these things like routinely, and it can become like that. And so maximizing our nutrition maximizes our motivation and helps us continue to love what we do. And one of my favorite things that she said is when people ask her how she has the energy to work out, she says that she has the energy to work out because she works out. And I love that. And we know that energy begets energy. But I thought that was so great, and something we can take to our clients is we have the energy to work out when we work out. And, when we take some times off and we get in a slump, we don't have the energy to work out. Okay, I'm almost done. A couple things. When she started the 131 diet, and it was at first the 131 diet, she didn't really know how to describe it to people or even really herself. She had this concept of what it was going to be, and she knew everybody's body was going to be different. Have any of you guys done it? Dana, have you looked into it at all? No? No? Okay. I haven't either. So she had a business coach she has a business mentor, a business coach who said to her, Shalene, you should go on Facebook Live. You need to do a beta test. You need testimonials. So you should Facebook Live and talk about the 131 diet and recruit some people for a beta test, the first of many beta tests. And so she did, and within like 28 minutes, she had something like 2,000 people that signed up and paid like $39 to be in the first beta test group. And while she was on that video, she was like, I'm going to be doing this diet, but it's not really a diet. And I, can't really explain very well what it is. And there's not really a meal plan. So she was like super ambiguous and super vague. And she gets these 2,000 people or whatever to be in the first beta test group. And then she said so then the business mentor stood up, and Michelle Park told me that this business mentor of hers that stood up is also Adele's, not Adele on our team, but Adele, the famous singer, Adele's business mentor too, and a business mentor to many like famous people. Her mentor stands up and she's got this thick accent, and they like run the mic over to her, and she's like, what Shalene did right is that she just started messy. She didn't wait, until she could describe it perfectly, knew everything, had the perfect branding, had the right logo in place, had all of her ducks in a row perfectly. She just started. And then they said that it later became the 131 method, because Shalene doesn't like the word diet. But the original like sizzle video that they put out for that 131 has since undergone, I believe she said, 197 edits to the sizzle video to promote that 131. 197 edits. So her point was, Shalene's and the mentors, is you just have to go, you just have to act. You just have to do. So many new coaches are like, I don't know what inviting means. I don't know, what words do you use? What words do you say? They'll ask me, like, how do you do it? We just have to do it messy. How do you run a challenge group? You just do it messy. Like, you just do it. And you're first, like, oh my gosh, every challenge group I've ever run, and I can't even tell you how many I've run now. Every single time I do one, I think, well, I'm going to do this differently next month. I'm going to do that differently next month. That's my like 197 video edits. So I loved that. It was one of my biggest takeaways of the entire conference. And she said, and I wrote down, the business mentor said, you'll succeed by doing stuff, not by thinking and talking about doing stuff. And I don't know, that's a huge message that I'm passionate about. You will succeed by doing stuff, not by thinking and talking about doing stuff. And I really, really am a huge proponent and believe in that so strongly. I think that's something I'm good at, unlike clutter. I'm really bad at clutter. But, and I'm obviously really bad about doing the right workout for the day and being really solid on the refeed. But I am pretty good about like being more of a doer than a talker. I'm really like gun shy of talking. In fact, like I've been trying to play around with like Facebook advertising and stuff, and I'm like afraid to say it because I don't really want to talk about it because I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to talk about what I'm doing. I just want to do it, figure it out, and then let the fact that I'm Facebook advertising speak for itself. That's just one example of many. I felt that way about ranks in the company, like hitting diamond rank. I didn't want to talk. I was not one of these coaches that was like, I'm going to be 2-star diamond. I didn't. I just was like, I'm just going to do it. I'm going to do it. I'm not going to talk about it. I'm going to do it. So I loved that. I loved the start messy. And I want to say one more thing in closing, but then we can do a really quick kind of discussion on some of these points, some of these later points as we end the call. Shalene said this, and if you want to write it down, I do think it's write down worthy, but if you don't want to write it down, that's okay too. Purpose is, your purpose is, my purpose is, write it down in the first person. My purpose is to help people figure out what I've figured out. My purpose is to help people figure out what I've figured out. My purpose is to help people figure out what I've figured out. And I thought about that a ton. I'm still processing that. And I think in terms of this business and this team and how it relates to us, specific to coaching, because I know it's applicable in life, but specific to coaching, like my purpose is to help people figure out what I've figured out. So like my strong question, my semi-rhetorical, semi-not rhetorical question is, what have you figured out? Like what have you figured out? I have figured out a couple of things which make this business perfect for me. I have figured out that I know I struggle with food and overeating and have some moderate food issues. I used to have an eating disorder pretty profoundly when I was like 19 to 21, wound up hospitalized, the whole 9 yards. And so I've come so far and have learned how to manage like that issue that I have. And then, and I found that like tools and support and anyway, what we do as coaches, the whole thing, including things like team call, but just our culture, everything, all of it, the home workouts, all of it, the meal plan, the whole thing that we are and we do that comes with coaching is a huge infrastructure that helps me figure out and manage those mild to moderate to once in a while severe food issues that I have and struggle with. I've also figured out a way to, I know you guys know this about me, but I've also figured out a way to make pretty good income doing something that I pretty much really enjoy from, like I've said a million times, this is me at work. Like I like that I could let my dog out and be home with my animals. And I want to stay home with my kids, but they're not home right now because they're too big. They're like at work, but I like this lifestyle, and I like that I work hard, but I like that I've figured out a way to have a lot of the things and comforts and things that matter to me and things I like. I've figured out a way to do that from home. So I figured out a couple of really important things. So my purpose is to help people figure out what I have figured out. My purpose in this business is to help people figure out some of those same solutions. And so that is your purpose in this business. So it begs the question, what have you figured out? And if you haven't figured out something, and I know this team call is super small, so maybe I'm talking to someone who's on the recording, who listens to the playback. When I say, if you haven't figured something out, and you're like, well, I don't know, I haven't figured anything out yet I haven't figured any solution out, then then that's where the beginnings of your success in coaching will and should begin, is the figuring out of your purpose, what you can pay forward. I really liked the National Wake Up Call. I listened to it today, the Monday call, about, I forget her name, Jen something, but she's like, I want people to want to work with me. I don't want to chase anyone. And I loved that. And I thought, that's what I want too. And I want people that want the same solutions that I've found. So I don't know. That's all I've got for you. And we managed this in a good amount of time. Did anyone want to comment on or share anything or talk about starting messy, about succeeding by doing, not just thinking about doing? It's so easy to sit and think about all the things we're going to do in the business without actually doing any of them. And then also about your purpose. Any comments or questions or thoughts?
Yeah, no, that messy plan resonates a lot with me. It reminds me of a quote that I've always liked, which is a good plan now is better than a perfect plan later. It's the same principle. Just get started. It doesn't have to be perfect. Just start.
Oh, I want to write that down.
And that there's a book, actually, if anyone's listening that wants to dive more into this, it's called Start. It's by John Acuff, I think is how you say it, Acuff. Start by John Acuff. It kind of is along these lines. Just get started, begin, start.
A good plan now is better than a perfect plan later, and then start. Yep. By John
Acuff, Acuff. I don't know how to say it.
Is it something you listened to on Audible, or did you read it?
I have the actual book.
You do. Jennifer, your video goes on and off. Do you know that? I feel like...
No, I didn't. I'm on my phone, so when I write stuff down, I flip into the Notepad app. So I apologize. Didn't know it was going on and off.
I just feel like that's happened before. Oh, I know what I wanted to tell you guys. I need to take my computer to the Geek Squad tomorrow at 4:40. I have an appointment, so I can't mastermind tomorrow. I know we just started that, so no mastermind tomorrow unless you guys want to orchestrate it on your own. All right, so in closing, Team Cup, there's a third of the month left. That's a lot of time. And you're welcome to, invite to March Challenge Group. That's funny that I said it like that. You're welcome to, you can. What I really meant is that I'm recruiting for March 12th, 80-day obsession, like another wave. And you're welcome to jump in on that. I know Jake's not doing that program, but what else? Team Cup Super Saturday is coming up April 7th and 8th. So get to one in your area. I have a little bit more to share with you about that I'm not allowed to talk about yet. Locals, which is probably just Jennifer. Yeah, I think that's everything, gang. I hope that was a little bit beneficial. I feel like I was a little preaching to the choir with you guys. All right. I'll see you in the team page. Thanks for being here. Thanks for showing up.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.